So after all these years of trying to win the hearts of the British people, after countless public appearances with that confident smile, Camilla has finally come face to face with the one thing she feared the most. Ladies and gentlemen, the truth has now been confirmed. Camilla has officially been stripped of all her power. No more access to key meetings, no more influence over royal decisions, no more seat at the table that she once tried to cling to at all costs. Internal sources from Buckingham described the scene after this decision as a silent purge. Camilla's closest aides were asked to step aside. Scheduled engagements that once prioritized her suddenly vanished. And more importantly, every document tied to her authority was reportedly seized overnight. What happened? Why did the palace choose this exact moment? And why is the person gaining the most power after this shock none other than Catherine, the woman Camilla had spent years trying to overshadow? Many royal analysts believe this blow was not a spontaneous reaction, but the result of long-held internal conflicts, complaints that were buried, heated arguments behind closed doors, and most telling of all, the growing distance between King Charles III and Camilla. The question now is no longer what Camilla has lost. The real question is who orchestrated this calculated power shift. So what do you think? Was Camilla stripped of her power because of her own actions, or because a new force is rising inside the royal family? Leave your comment below. Press 1 if you think Camilla's brought this on herself, or press 2 if you believe someone else is pulling the strings. At exactly 9 o'clock in the morning on October 13, 2025, the heavy crimson curtains of Clarence House were drawn back to reveal King Charles III standing alone beside a pedestal bearing Queen Mary's crown. The nation watched live as he stepped to the lectern. His voice, measured but shaking, began, effective immediately. Her Majesty the Queen Consort's title will be suspended, pending further review. Those 17 words carried more weight than decades of royal ceremony. Never in the modern monarchy's 120-year history had such a demotion been made live on air. Behind him, the crown's Cullinan 3 and 4 diamonds glittering coldly in the light symbolized not continuity but conflict. This was not just a family matter. It was constitutional. His phrase, "The crown must remain pure," echoed across the BBC and Sky News and streamed on platforms in 52 countries. For royal watchers, it was unprecedented. The man who had spent 74 years preparing for the throne was now dismantling the image he had tried to preserve for 13 months of his reign. The gravity was unmistakable. Inside the chamber, aides froze. One dropped a briefing paper. Another whispered, "It is done," as a camera captured their pale expressions. Outside, reporters swarmed the gates of Clarence House, pressing microphones against black railings. The bells of St. James's Palace, which had tolled during coronations and deaths, now rang with a somber undertone. Social media erupted within minutes. Hashtag Queen Consort suspended trended globally. Analysts speculated, was this a response to years of public distrust in Camilla, or had something new, something irreversible, come to light? The answer came quickly. Royal correspondents reported whispers of a sapphire brooch linked to Princess Diana, recently sold at auction in Geneva. It was traced not to the Royal Collection Trust, but to Camilla's private estate, Ray Mill House in Wiltshire. The sale had been quiet, but not quiet enough. As one commentator put it, this is not about jewels, this is about justice. For many, it confirmed what they had long believed. Diana's legacy had been tampered with, and now the crown would answer for it. The Geneva brooch scandal. As the world reeled from Charles's announcement, attention turned to the spark that set it all ablaze. It was not just betrayal, it was physical evidence. The brooch, once worn by Diana during her 1992 trip to Japan, was now the centerpiece of a high-stakes investigation. What was it doing in a Swiss vault? And how did it pass from royal hands into private sale? As whispers grew louder, all eyes shifted from Buckingham Palace to the glass-fronted auction halls of Geneva. In the sleek auction halls of Geneva, on the night of October 6, 2025, a rare item stunned attendees at the prestigious Valmont Auctioneers estate sale. Lot 143, a sapphire brooch with surrounding 14 white diamonds, matching a piece last seen on Princess Diana by 1992 during her official visit to Kyoto, Japan. Experts gasped. How had this vanished heirloom slipped from the royal collection's hands? Within 48 hours, the British press was ablaze. Diana's brooch sold headlined the Daily Mirror in bold across front pages. Appraisers confirmed its authenticity using archival photographs and registry engravings. But one detail raised alarm. The provenance listed a private English estate, Wiltshire, as its previous holder. The auction house initially refused to name the consignor, citing confidentiality. But Swiss authorities, under pressure from United Kingdom diplomatic channels, launched an inquiry. Within 72 hours, the chain of custody led to a shadowy intermediary, Martin Leck, a jewelry broker now under house arrest in Monaco. The palace's response was swift but vague. A review is underway. Behind closed doors, though, it was chaos. Princess Anne, always the royal family's enforcer of duty, demanded an immediate audit of the royal jewel registry, citing gross mishandling. Prince William, already furious, told aides at Kensington, "My mother's memory is not a commodity." His wife Catherine, equally incensed, held a midnight meeting with King Charles III on October 9th, urging, "This is not just personal, it is institutional. If we do not act now, we lose the public forever." As questions piled up, public fury intensified. Online petitions demanding Camilla's resignation gathered over 1.2 million signatures in just 3 days. Outside Kensington Palace, mourners placed new photos of Diana beside candles and handwritten notes. Some read, "She gave us everything. You sold her memory." The sapphire, small and silent, had become a symbol of violation. More than jewelry had been stolen. It was trust, and that was something the monarchy could not afford to lose again. The gala that lit the fuse. While investigators pieced together auction receipts and shipment records, royal attention turned to a very public night that may have set the entire scandal in motion long before Geneva's headlines. Questions had already emerged behind velvet curtains and charity speeches. It was supposed to be a glittering night for the royal calendar, a celebration of heritage and continuity. But instead, the Heritage Gala of Autumn 2025 would become the event where Camilla's misstep turned into the monarchy's unraveling. On the evening of September 28, 2025, the royal family hosted the annual Heritage Gala at Spencer Hall, a lavish ballroom restored in Diana's name. Camilla arrived wearing Queen Mary's crown and a diamond necklace once belonging to Queen Elizabeth II. But what caught everyone's attention was the brooch pinned to her left shoulder, oval sapphire, white diamond trim, unmistakable. A royal stylist even posted, "The Queen Consort stuns in Diana's original piece." Within minutes, eagle-eyed royal fans online began asking, "Why is this not in the vault?" The Royal Collection Trust, contacted by journalists the next morning, confirmed the brooch was not part of their current holdings. By October 1st, the post was deleted, but damage had been done. Behind the palace walls, private outrage festered. William confronted his father during a brief meeting in Sandringham, demanding answers. Charles reportedly replied, "It must be a replica." But insiders say Charles looked pale and stunned. Catherine, watching quietly, later told aides, "Even replicas must be recorded." This was not one. The gala, meant to show royal unity, had the opposite effect. During the evening, Princess Anne was seen speaking sternly with Camilla, her arms crossed. Body language analysts later dissected footage, noting visible tension among senior royals. Camilla, seemingly unaware of the storm to come, smiled for photographers, basking in public attention. But behind the smiles, the foundations were crumbling. 4 days later, the Geneva auction listing would appear and connect the brooch to Camilla's private holdings. The public, once charmed by the glitter, now felt betrayed. They wore our pain like decoration. One headline read, "The monarchy's trust with its people, already frayed by scandals and Megxit and Charles's slow ascent, was now hanging by a thread." The brooch, which Diana once wore with quiet pride, had become a symbol of carelessness at best or conspiracy at worst. What was meant to dazzle had exposed something darker, a royal family still at war with its own past. The royal audit exposes the unthinkable. In the aftermath of the gala and Geneva's revelations, Clarence House acted fast but quietly. A secret audit was ordered, the kind that had not occurred since 1963 during the Queen's Diamond dispute with India. Jewel registrars and historical archivists were summoned. Items were moved from the Tower to Clarence House under false pretenses. But once the audit began, the secrets uncovered were too damaging to contain. What was supposed to clarify the facts instead exposed a betrayal buried in signed documents. On the morning of October 5, 2025, a quiet convoy of black Range Rovers departed the Tower of London under armed escort. Inside were velvet-lined crates holding 45 pieces of royal jewelry, some dating back to Queen Victoria, others more recent like Princess Diana's private collection. Destination, Clarence House, where a secret audit had been ordered under King Charles III's authority. The stated reason, routine archival review, but among senior aides, everyone knew it was about the brooch and what else might be missing. The audit began that same afternoon in the Lancaster Room, overseen by a team of 3 royal archivists, 2 independent appraisers, and 1 armed security officer. The first red flag came within 90 minutes. 5 discrepancies between the official inventory and physical items. Among the missing, a pearl and diamond tiara last worn by Diana in 1995, and a bracelet featured in her 1996 Harper's Bazaar photo shoot. Worse, several chain of custody forms were either unsigned or contained Camilla Parker Bowles's initials without authorizing statements. By October 7th, the audit report reached Princess Anne, whose reaction was described by insiders as ice through the room. Anne confronted Charles directly that evening, stating, "This is not a jewelry mix-up. This is dereliction of duty." William and Catherine joined the next day, reviewing every piece flagged in the audit. William's voice reportedly cracked as he pointed to an empty velvet case labeled Sapphire Kyoto 1992. "She wore that to meet the Emperor," he said, "and now it is on a price tag." Charles, visibly shaken, summoned Camilla to a private conversation. Sources say she claimed ignorance, blaming assistants in poor records and confused provenance, but no one believed it anymore. "These are not just ornaments," Catherine told her father-in-law. "They are our heritage, our history." And so the audit's findings became undeniable. 11 royal items, all traceable to Diana, were unaccounted for. 5 conclusively linked to Camilla's estate. The betrayal was not just personal, it was institutional. With the audit's findings confirmed, the House of Windsor was no longer divided in whispers. It was openly fractured. But Charles knew that scandal alone would not force clarity. There needed to be a reckoning. He called a meeting that had not occurred since the days of Queen Elizabeth II's hardest hours, a private royal summit inside the Maple Room. Confrontation in the Maple Room. On October 9, 2025, at 4:30 in the afternoon, 4 senior royals entered the Maple Room inside Clarence House. King Charles III, Princess Anne, Prince William, and Princess Catherine. The room was cold. A silver tea set sat untouched. Across from them, Camilla entered last, wearing a muted navy dress and no crown jewels. "I suppose you think I stole her," she said sharply. "Diana," Anne's reply was blunt. "No, but you betrayed the crown, and that is worse." The meeting would last 2 hours, but its impact would echo for years. Anne opened a brown folder marked confidential and slid it across the table. Inside were photographs from the Geneva auction, shipping receipts, and signed transfer forms bearing Camilla's stylized say. William read them silently, jaw clenched. He looked up. Who authorized this? Camilla remained silent. Charles pressed his hands together. "I need an answer, Camilla." "The world does," she finally whispered. "I did not know the details, but the damage was done." Even silence was now an admission. Tension rose as Catherine broke through with a calm but devastating line. "These jewels, They are not about sparkle. They are about story. Every time we lose one, we lose a piece of her, of all of us. William added, if we cannot protect what is sacred, we should not wear it at all. Charles stared into the distance, murmuring, the crown cannot run on maybe. A phrase later repeated to the press, carved into public memory. Camilla, for the first time, had no defense, only regret. By the meeting's end, a decision had been made. Camilla's title as Queen Consort would be paused pending an official review. Charles would convene a privy council within 72 hours. The monarchy, he decided, would no longer pretend. It would act. Camilla left through the east corridor without speaking. Later that night, aides reported she sat alone in the green drawing room staring at a wedding photo. She flipped it face down, its soft thump echoing like a final chapter, turning. Camilla's fall from grace was not yet public, but the royal family knew it was only a matter of time. Camilla's fall from grace. At 9:45 in the morning on October 13, 2025, King Charles III stepped once more before the nation. Wearing formal military attire and flanked by aides, he spoke from the Grand Hall of Clarence House, the same room where Queen Elizabeth II had once celebrated her Golden Jubilee. His message, though historic, was heartbreakingly simple. Queen Consort Camilla will step back from her duties. Her title is suspended pending further review. It was the monarchy's first public demotion in 118 years, and its loudest admission of guilt. Charles's voice quivered as he continued, this is not anger. This is a warning we cannot lose the people's trust. Not again. Behind him, Queen Mary's crown remained encased in glass, untouched, unsymbolic. Catherine and William stood to the side. Anne stared down, unmoving. Camilla was not present. As Charles finished, church bells at St. James's rang again, this time not for joy or grief, but consequence. Britain was watching, and for once, the monarchy was not hiding. Public response was swift and polarized. Some cheered, saying justice had finally caught up with Camilla. Diana wins. One viral tweet read, garnering 4.7 million views. Others wept, feeling the sadness of a divided royal house. Outside Clarence House, protesters and mourners alike laid flowers, pictures of Diana, and even fake sapphire brooches. At 10 Downing Street, the Prime Minister issued a rare comment. This is a family confronting truth. The nation should meet them with compassion and clarity. That night, Camilla returned to Raymill House under heavy security. Staff described her as silent, shaken, and no longer wearing her wedding ring. In a private sitting room, she looked at a photograph of her and Charles taken on May 6, 2023, during the coronation. The tiara in the image glinted slightly askew. After a long pause, she turned it face down. In 24 hours, her name had vanished from the royal website. Her chapter, at least for now, was closed. The public reckoning begins. With Camilla's retreat as into seclusion, the monarchy faced its final test, not behind palace walls, but in the court of public opinion. On the cold morning of October 13, 2025, just hours after Camilla's demotion was announced, the gates of Clarence House were swarmed by hundreds of reporters and mourners. Cameras rolled from the BBC and CNN and ITV and dozens of live streams as King Charles approached the press, podium draped in red velvet. Standing beside him were Prince William and Princess Catherine, both dressed in navy royal mourning colors. The speech would last 3 minutes, but it would redefine the monarchy. Charles's words cut deep. This is not anger. This is a warning. The crown cannot outshine truth. He paused, visibly emotional. For the first time since his September 2022 accession, the king acknowledged public disappointment directly. Jewels are not just symbols. They are anchors of trust. If we lose that trust, we all suffer. Catherine squeezed William's hand. Anne stood stone-faced in the background, her expression unreadable. The palace, for once, was not cloaked in polished smiles. It was human, humbled, and breaking. Outside, reactions were immediate and emotional. Supporters of Diana gathered at Kensington Palace, placing photos and letters and faux sapphire brooches by the memorial gate. One note read, "She never got justice. Now she has dignity." Royal historian Dr. Lillian Grant told ITV, "This is the first time since the abdication crisis of 1936 that the public has seen a royal family so divided and so open." Meanwhile, polls showed 63% of Britons supported the suspension of Camilla's title, while 21% believed it did not go far enough. Inside the palace, staff whispered that Charles looked 20 years older by nightfall, but he had done what no monarch before him dared: publicly punish a sitting consort. The act was not just unprecedented, it was irreversible. As Charles left the stage, he turned to William and said, "It is your moment now." The prince stepped forward with a sealed document signed that morning by his father. The future of the crown had officially passed into the hands of a generation that remembered Diana not in title, but in truth. Diana's ghost and a fractured family. That evening, inside Kensington Palace, Prince William stood at the window of his study, looking out at the sea of tributes left by mourners. Candles flickered, flowers drooped, and photos of Princess Diana stared back at him through the iron gates. Catherine entered quietly. "They are here for her," she said. William replied, barely audible. "It doesn't feel like a victory. After everything, the audit, the demotion, the press storm, it felt hollow. Diana wasn't here to see it, but her truth had finally surfaced." Meanwhile, at Mill House, Camilla sat in silence, nursing a brandy beside the fire. At 8:10 p.m., she slipped off her wedding ring and set it on the mantel beside a photo of her and Charles from Coronation Day. With a soft sigh, she flipped the frame face down. No words were spoken, but staff said the sound echoed like a gavel. Her exile wasn't official, but it had begun. In every tabloid, she was already gone. Back at Clarence House, Charles wandered the halls alone. In the display room, he stood before Queen Mary's crown, encased in crystal. His reflection flickered beside the diamonds. For a brief moment, he whispered to himself, "Liz, Diana, I'm sorry." Whether it was a prayer or a confession, no one knew, but the weight of history sat heavy on his shoulders. In 2 days, he'd be forced to draft the most painful royal letter of his reign, a farewell not just to Camilla, but to illusion. Public sentiment grew louder. Social media flooded with tributes and calls to make Diana Day an official holiday. TikTok videos of her interviews played over sad piano music, and YouTube channels reposted her 1995 panorama confession, now seen through a sharper lens. Commentators noted the irony. Camilla's greatest scandal came from misusing Diana's jewels, not from tabloid gossip. The woman the palace once tried to forget had become the very soul of its reckoning. Letters, legacies, and the crown's real cost. As the monarchy processed its grief, King Charles did something he hadn't done in years. He picked up a pen. Behind a locked door in Burke Hall, his Scottish retreat, he began writing a letter titled "To My Sons." It was meant to be private, but its contents would soon echo across history books. By October 14th, tucked away at Burke Hall under gray Scottish skies, King Charles wrote what insiders called the letter he feared most. The first paragraph acknowledged the brooch, the audit, and the family rupture. But the heart of the letter was about legacy. "Our true treasure," but he wrote, "is not sparkle or state, it's the courage to protect one another. If we lose that, we lose the soul of the crown." William received the letter that evening at Kensington Palace. He read it twice, then quietly handed it to Catherine. "Mum would have cried," he said. She nodded. She would have forgiven, but she'd have made them earn it. Later that night, the couple attended a public event in Richmond, their first since the scandal. The reception was different. Not loud, not giddy, just quiet warmth. A child handed William a drawing of Diana with angel wings. He smiled, and for the first time in weeks, looked genuinely at peace. Meanwhile, Princess Anne met with the archivists to formalize new heirloom protocols. From now on, every transfer would require 3 signatures: a royal, a trustee, and a historian. "We won't lose track again," she told reporters. Behind her stoic demeanor, she had become the monarchy's quiet guardian. The country took notice. Newspapers that once ignored her now praised her resolve. "She saved the crown's conscience," the editor wrote in the Times of London. The day came to be known as the Crown's Reckoning Day, a moment when truth cracked centuries of silence. Royal biographers called it the most consequential chapter since Edward VIII's abdication in 1936. But unlike then, the crown wasn't surrendering, it was repairing. And at the heart of its healing wasn't a king, but a woman long gone, who never wore the crown, but who wore the people's love like no royal before her. Diana. What comes next? Camilla's royal website biography was officially archived on October 15, 2025. Her title changed from Queen Consort to Duchess of Cornwall, retired. Her retreat to Raymill House became permanent. No farewell tour, no press conference, just silence. When asked by a staffer how she was, she replied, "Don't feel sorry for me, I'm just done." Her exit was not dramatic, but it was final. The monarchy had made its choice, and now the nation waited for what would rise from the wreckage. Charles, weary but resolved, began initiating a series of reforms: independent jewel audits every 5 years, new transparency laws governing royal gifts, and the appointment of a royal accountability officer, the first in British history. "The crown can't afford secrecy anymore," he told Parliament during a private meeting. Though still king, he now acted more like a caretaker, preserving the institution not through tradition, but truth. William and Catherine emerged stronger than ever. At a charity gala on October 20th, the couple received a standing ovation. Kate wore Diana's pearl bracelet, and William gave a short speech that ended with, "We stand here not as royals, but as guardians of your trust." Their approval rating soared to 8.8, the highest since their 2011 wedding. Children held signs saying, "Long live the future." The message was clear. This generation of royals would lead with integrity, or not at all. As the bells of Westminster Abbey tolled at noon, signaling the end of a historic week, the United Kingdom exhaled, not in celebration, but in understanding. Legacy, it turns out, isn't made of crowns or thrones. It's forged in fire, confession, and the courage to begin again. The monarchy survived not by denying its ghosts, but by facing them. And in doing so, it found something rarer than diamonds: a second chance. With Camilla's fate sealed and the palace in crisis, the royal family stands at a crossroads. Trust is broken, and Diana's legacy now looms larger than ever. Ladies and gentlemen, this story once again proves that the truth will always expose those who place ambition above duty. Camilla may try to cover her tracks, may try to pull power toward herself, but in the end, those schemes only leave her standing alone in the shadows. The royal family no longer accepts the presence of someone who brings nothing but division. And no matter how hard she tries to hold on, Camilla's time has truly come to an end. Meanwhile, those who deserve it are the ones stepping forward. The public is wise enough to see who is protecting the legacy of the monarchy and who is merely exploiting it. Thank you for watching until the end. Leave a comment if you want the truth to keep being exposed, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel to support us. There are still many secrets waiting to be uncovered.